All right, I just saw Avatar 2, The Way of Water. I always try to call it The Shape of Water. I'm not sure why. Those are two very different movies. No, Avatar 2, The Way of Water. So I went into this movie. I kind of feel like the first Avatar movie in some ways became very underrated. Not to say it's a great movie, but it was so hyped up at the beginning, right when it came out. And people kind of, there was a pushback against that hype. And I feel like that kind of maybe overshadowed it and maybe made people think that it's actually a bad movie when I don't think it is. I think it's a good, fun movie, although definitely has its flaws. I would say that I liked Avatar 2 better than that one. So, there's my thoughts on the movie is, yes, I did think this movie was fun. I have not read anything about it. I have not read any reviews. I know no one's opinion other than my own. I tried to do that just because I think that would make for a better review, right? If I don't know anyone else's opinion on it. Plus, it's more fun to watch a movie that way, I think. There's definitely some dumb in here. That's definitely true. Just like the first one, there's going to be some silly moments. There's no unobtainium this time. They made a new thing that they're going after, which is probably ideal. That makes the most sense. And there's definitely some things that, like, I don't know. There's actually a lot of moments where I'm like, what are we doing here? So, like, one great example is, or I don't even want to say what you're doing here, but just like, that doesn't make sense. Like, there was very early on, so, like, I guess to set the stage of what the movie is, it's, you have the, Jake Sully, who, on a side note, there was kind of a meme going around about how no one can remember a single Avatar character's name, because it was obviously, it was the highest grossing film of all time when it came out, and no one could remember a name. It was kind of a way to make fun of the movie in a sense. They said Jake Sully at least 100 times in this movie. I'm convinced they were like, you're going to remember Jake Sully's name. We're not going to have that meme against us again this time, which, hey, I remember it, Jake Sully, so there you go. But yes, Jake Sully, the guy from last time, he now has a family, and then the military people are trying to kill him. I guess just to kill him. I don't know if there was actually a reason given why they wanted to kill him so badly, why they'd put so much time and resources into killing him. I don't really remember the first one that well, so maybe it was explained there. So for all the Avatar heads out there that love the first movie, and maybe there is an explanation, I apologize. It felt a little bit weak, but again, there was a few moments like that. The moment I was going to say before I got into this was when they all got turned, all the military people, they get turned into avatars in this one. So now they're, Navi is the name. And like one of the Navis is just like curling, like a bicep curl the whole time. Like, you're in a new body, you have muscles. Why do you need to still be working on muscles? It was very much we got to make sure that these are the douchebag, military bro type people. So we got to have one of them curling. It was just kind of a funny thing there, I thought. And there were some moments like that. There were definitely some kind of cheesy moments, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with some cheesy moments personally. I don't like freak out over that. Obviously, I would rather them not be there, but I'm okay with kind of a few of those things. One thing that I didn't love in this movie, and I want to almost give like James Cameron and give the writers, give everyone involved, all the creative people involved, some leeway in this by saying, I don't know if this was studio interference or not, but some of the voiceover felt very out of place. I'm sure a couple of them were voiceover. Like there was one where so they, Jake Sully and his family go to meet the water people, and that's kind of, the way of water. That's why it's there. And there was a voiceover when they were meeting them that felt so like, you didn't like shoot a scene for the voiceover. It didn't feel like, I could be wrong, who knows, maybe that's in the script, but it felt very much like they showed it to a test audience. The test audience was confused, and so then they added the voiceover later. Like the entire first scene was voiced over, and I don't know if it had to be. It kind of made me wonder, was that studio interference? Was the studio kind of saying, hey, we're putting $250 million into this movie. We want to make sure everyone understands what's going on. We want to make sure that the 13-year-olds who are buying tickets to this understand what's happening. Probably, maybe, I don't know. Again, could have just been in the script. Maybe James Cameron himself felt like he wanted to make sure everyone knew what was going on. I don't know. But definitely was dumbed down a little bit at times. That being said, I feel like I talked mostly negative about a movie that I actually liked. I thought this was a lot of fun. And I'm not a huge big budget action movie guy. I'm really not. I sort of stopped watching Marvel movies. I'm like, those aren't really my thing. I tend to watch, tend to not love those kind of things. But yeah, I had a great time with this movie. I thought that some of the action pieces were just really suspenseful. There were some actual moments of heart that did make me feel something, which, some really good movies don't do that for me, and this movie was able to get emotional reactions out of me. So that's the goal of going to a movie theater. Now again, those can vary person to person. Some people don't get emotional reactions about certain things, and maybe it won't work for you. It worked for me, though. The emotional stuff worked for me. The action stuff really worked for me. I'm kind of terrified of water. That's just kind of my thing, is like the idea of like a giant sea monster chasing after me while I'm in the water is like literally the number one most terrifying thing I can think of. So there was a scene like that, and it was awesome to watch. So, some of these set pieces, James Cameron just gets water, right? Seems like every movie he uses water, which is a lot of them, it really works. And it seems like every time he makes a sequel, it really works. Terminator 2 really kind of, I think, added something to the first one and elevated it, which is why many view that a better movie. Alien, you can argue if Alien or Aliens is a better movie, but they're both very good. And James Cameron, again, took that material of like a horror sci-fi thing and elevated it to being kind of, more of a horror action type sci-fi thing. And then in this one, he elevated again with the kind of the addition of these sea people, which I have to say, that was my favorite thing of this movie, I thought, was the, in a script, you would call it the fun and games section, where you're into the first act. It's about a little over an hour into the movie, and you're just kind of hanging out with the Na'vi, who are the tree people, being introduced to the sea people world. And while you're doing that, you have the military people being introduced to the forest people world, and it's everyone kind of just, fish out of water, no pun intended, type of situation. And it was just a lot of fun. I wanted to stay there forever, it felt like. And I spent a while on it, which, could have hurt the pacing if it wasn't entertaining, but I had a lot of fun with it. I was really enjoying it. The whales had, like, those characters really worked. So yeah, I mean, I was gonna get into spoilers at a certain point. I don't think I really have to get into spoilers. I think you can kind of say it without I think if you watch the movie, you'll understand what beats I'm talking about. And if you haven't, I don't think I gave away too much for you there. But again, maybe some of it is I'm just kind of sick of all the action movies that are out there today. So seeing kind of like one like by James Cameron is just refreshing. I'm sure that's part of it to some degree. I also like 3D. I haven't seen a 3D movie in probably since the last Avatar. I feel like at the time people complained a lot about 3D. I don't know. I had a really good time with it. Also should mention these are not the 3D glasses. These are just my sunglasses because it's sunny out. But yeah, I mean, I had a really good time with the 3D stuff. I thought that this was, it's almost made me wonder. I don't know if this would happen or not, but it made me kind of wonder, could this be something that maybe not save cinemas, but can help cinemas, is making it feel like, what's the Martin Scorsese thing of like these Marvel movies, and he didn't say Marvel, but like these, big budget movies are kind of like theme park rides. Well, I think this was kind of a theme park ride, but a really fun theme park ride. And I think Martin Scorsese himself said there's nothing wrong with that kind of movie, but that's what it is. And I think if you're going to make a theme park ride, make it theme parky. Put on 3D glasses. The 3D glasses are interesting, right? Because when the point of 3D, the point of making something look cinematic is you want it to make it look like there's depth, right? You want to make it look like, you don't want it to look like there's just one thing, it's just flat. Like for here, this is not a cinematic screenshot whatsoever. It's just me and my car. So everything kind of looks flat. But if you were to kind of, I don't know, I don't think I can do it here. But if you were to use blocking and use lighting and all that stuff to make it look more cinematic, then it looks more 3D. That's kind of what making something cinematic is for the most part. So having actual technology to make it actually 3D just helps with that, and I think adds to it. And I didn't find it distracting at all. I feel like maybe 3D's just gotten better over the years. That could be. I think that's possible, because I remember it being distracting when I watched 3D back when it was a thing like 10 years ago. But this, I think, is going to bring 3D back a little bit. I think there's going to be more 3D movies, and, I'm interested in seeing how it goes. I don't think it should be all movies, but I think that for something like Avatar, it really does add to the experience having it shot in 3D and how cool it does look at times. So there's a couple of scenes where they had it, had the 3D, but they also like, it was very shallow focus, and I'm kind of like, you have the 3D, you don't need the shallow focus, but hey, people are going to watch it at home too, so you want to make it look cinematic in all ways, and Cameron certainly did that. So the 3D, little distracting on some aspects still. There just is, like, for example, lens flares. This is maybe a bit too, I don't know how much people care about this, but like a lens flare, for example, what actually happens is it's lighting reflecting off of the camera lens. And so that's what creates the lens flare look. And so when there were lens flares in this movie, which wasn't often, but there were a couple lens flares, it's in the foreground, not in the background, which you kind of, your mind expects it to be, since it's coming from the light, so that kind of is a little bit distracting. Couple things like that, but as a whole, I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. Again, definitely some dumb parts, definitely some cheese here, but the good outweighs the bad. It's James Cameron directing avatars in water. It's going to be pretty good. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.